It's August 1989. Reporters pack into a dimly lit hall just outside of Tokyo. Cameras at the ready. Anticipation so thick you could butter toast with it. On stage, a cloth cover drapes over a familiar silhouette. It's certainly a Nissan Skyline, but everybody knows what lies beneath will be totally different. A new direction for Nissan. The latest vehicle from their mythical Project 901. This internal project at Nissan had a simple goal: make Nissan the absolute global leader in technology and performance, and get it done by the 1990s. 9D. Be number 1. 901. And honestly, at this point, Project 901 was on fire. They had just made the groundbreaking S13 Silvia and the Z32 300ZX twin turbo. So when the cover came off, boom. The crowd erupts. A wider, lower version of the Nissan Skyline is revealed. Beneath the widened fenders, an entirely new all-wheel drive system that can send torque to the front and the back independently, finally glinting off the lights of the auditorium hall. A small trunk badge read Nissan's future, GTR. Those letters would become Nissan's savior, as well as their downfall. That car, of course, was the iconic R32 Nissan Skyline GTR. And for us enthusiasts, it was the beginning of a legend, the start of peak Nissan, the golden era. All through the 90s, Nissan continued to release a mind-boggling amount of absolutely sick cars, most of which are still legends to this day. Fast forward to 2025, though, and Nissan is a different beast. And by beast, I mean like a tired, like sick cat that lives at your house. And like you still love the cat, but he keeps getting older and he keeps getting uglier and he stinks, and that makes it harder to love him. And he's a cat, so he doesn't like wearing diapers, and he doesn't know why he's supposed to wear diapers. But you got to put the diapers on him because you're sick of cleaning up all the That's what thinking about Nissan today can feel like sometimes. Their lineup is not exactly exciting, and they definitely are not number one in technology or performance. And on top of losing their identity as a performance-forward brand, Nissan is looking down the barrel of bankruptcy. What was once a $44 billion company in 2015 is now a mere $8 billion enterprise. Nissan needs saving. They need a plan to turn things around. So when you hear news like this, car enthusiasts everywhere, myself included, like to play armchair CEO and propose what we think would be the best way to win back customers and start making money again. And every time, it seems like whatever we think would be a good idea, the company decides to do the complete opposite. So that leaves me with three questions. What would a car enthusiast like me or you do if they were the CEO of Nissan? How does that compare to Nissan's actual plan? And three, is it even possible to make a big profit and still be cool? All right, let's start with the enthusiast takes. Enthusiast take number one: they should just do it like they used to. So many times when a brand is in trouble, whether it's a car company or Taco Bell, you'll hear people say they've just lost their way. They just need to go back to the old strategy. But honestly, for Nissan, I think that is an awesome plan. Allow me to take the reins for a second, fellas. We would start with the next generation GTR. Immediately establish a halo that all the car boys and girls can get behind. Then we make a GR86 killer by reviving the Silvia. We make it a lightweight two-door coupe with 300 horsepower and a manual transmission. We make it easy to modify with overhead for more boost and simple mechanical excellence. Then we make a good Z. Most importantly, we make it better than the Supra. Is that a Supra? Yeah, in my rear view mirror, because I'm driving a freaking new Z. improve the manual transmission, up the power a little bit, lean into the heritage styling, and enter some races to beat the Supra on the real world stage. And call up all of the dealerships and say, hey, if you guys bump these things up a certain percentage over MSRP, we're pulling your license. You might be saying, James, this all sounds kind of expensive. And here's the thing, pal, you'd be right. Except that we're also bringing back the Sentra SER. That's right, a cheap front-wheel drive sport compact with a zingy, naturally aspirated engine and a snippy little manual gearbox. Price it below $30K, right in line with the Civic Si, but make it cooler, edgier, and most importantly, retro AF. We'd also revive the Pulsar GT IR. The Pulsar was the global Sentra model, so we just add a hatchback Sentra to the lineup and make a new Sentra GT IR with the same vibe to compete with the GR Corolla. To top off our comeback, we go off-road. We make the Frontier into a Ranger Raptor competitor with long travel suspension, factory Baja lights, a gnarly bumper, and swap the Z's twin-turbo V6 into it, make it an absolute dune destroyer and a party truck. Also, we bring back the Xterra with the same plan to with the Bronco, an Xterra that you can take the doors off of. I wonder how many moms on the west side of LA would buy those. Probably a freaking ton, dude. Can you imagine how sick Nissan would be? And this is not just fantasy indulgence. There is logic in these moves. By gaining the respect of enthusiasts, average consumers will want to buy Nissan because of its new reputation. There are so many people who never take their cars to the track, but they still buy Porsches because enthusiasts speak so highly of Porsche's track performance. You look at the GT3 RS and you're like, damn, that car looks like a race car. Maybe I'll buy a Cayenne. Strategies working on reviving the past have worked before. Okay, Harley Davidson, bear with me, was struggling in the 1970s. All right, their bikes were unreliable. They rode like crap and they were losing out to Japanese competition. Then, in 1981, a group of investors bought Harley, outsourced parts to increase quality, and marketed their Americana roots. They embraced their past and it worked. I know that Harley is famously not doing very well right now, but in the 1980s, they were doing very well. You ever seen Terminator 2? But there is one big but to this idea. Nissan's most beloved years, the ones we all think they should just go back to, that would fix all of their economic problems, they weren't exactly successful financially. The golden era of Nissan that I described in the beginning of this video, in reality, cost Nissan a ton of money. They operated at a loss for like a decade. Throughout the 1990s, their debt had become a colossal $38 billion. It's easy to forget that when the R34 and S15 Silvia came out in 1999, Nissan was on the edge of bankruptcy. Its pursuit of greatness had almost killed the company. And actually, the most financially successful time for Nissan was when it merged with Renault. And Carlos Ghosn turned things around by restructuring the company and cutting costs through factory closures, consolidations, and layoffs. And they tried to throw that motherfucker in jail, dude. That was like 2017, I think, is when they were doing the best. And these are all the cars that they made in 2017. Not exactly the enthusiast golden era utopia that we picture. So just playing the hits from the golden era might not exactly improve their money situation. This video was harder than usual to navigate fact from fiction, which is exactly where a tool like today's sponsor, Ground News, is helpful. Ground News is a news comparison platform that helps you see how stories are being covered across the political spectrum. I think this story about Nissan's factory closures illustrates it well. Nissan considers Foxconn EV output to save Opama from closure. That is the Opama plant in Japan, not Barack Obama. All right, we can see that 29 sources have covered it, and we can scroll through headlines side by side to see which sources are leaning left. Nissan mulls EV partnership with Taiwanese Foxconn. Center, Nissan considers Foxconn EV output to save Oklahoma factory from closure. Or right, Nissan's last-ditch SOS to Foxconn. Will this EV deal save 3,900 jobs? All basically the same story, but they each got different sauce on them. You can check bias breakdowns to see who's pushing each sauce, and factuality charts to see which sauce is the most truthful version of the sauce. So if you're tired of letting your algorithm pick your sauce for you and you want a smarter way to stay informed, check out ground.news/speed or scan the QR code. You'll get 40% off of their Vantage plan. Ground News. Don't let them pick your sauce. Now let's see if we can save Nissan. Enthusiast take number 2. You know what they should do? Exactly what insert other brand is doing. I think we've all been in conversations like this. I think maybe they should focus on reliability like Toyota. No, dude, they should pump up their performance line like BMW. Turn Nismo into M.
Interesting points, gentlemen, but I think maybe they should be like Hyundai, value kings. You stack cash now, and that can pay for the fun stuff later.
Do you guys think that us pretending to know better than the CEOs of complex multinational companies is a sign of gross mishiring at high-level positions due to the outsized influence of non-endemic investment holding power without the ability to take informed action, or the result of an overconfidence instilled in us from a young age by America's paired obsession of exceptionalism and individualism, despite the fact that none of us graduated from high school? No, you're right. No, you're right. Copying another brand definitely could work, and it definitely has worked a million times in the past. I mean, Disney saw what Netflix was doing, and they were like, that's a pretty good idea. We should do that. Now, Disney Plus is a huge success. But on the flip side, do you guys remember when Microsoft made the Zune to go head-to-head against the iPod? Even though the Zune was technically better, it wasn't more better enough to convert people from the iPod, and it wasn't different enough from the iPod to attract a completely new market, and it just ended up being a less cool iPod. I remember saying that you had a Zune was like a joke for a while. It's like, oh, have you seen my Zune? Like, it was like kind of like having an Android phone, but like times a million, because there's actually a reason to have an Android phone. There was literally no reason to own a Zune, even though it was technically better. Trying to steal somebody else's thunder will almost never be as good as making your own, which leads us to the third, but maybe least common idea that I hear from other car guys. Don't go back to the past. Don't copy someone else. Do something completely and radically new. Build a brand from the ground up. The product, the methods, the engineering, the mystique. Maybe Nissan could try entering F1. Maybe they create some unprecedented modular ecosystem of aftermarket parts that makes upgrading your own car easier. I don't know, man, something new that nobody else is doing. Spotify didn't kill iTunes by building a music marketplace. They embraced a completely different model, and now you can't own anything. Google didn't kill cable TV by starting their own TV network. They bought YouTube and built a completely different platform. And thank God they did. I love it here. So obviously, I think trying to be completely new and innovative can work. But the big thing that like kind of cruxes on is if you want to be a visionary, you have to be correct. Remember in like 2018 when Ford announced that they weren't a car company anymore, they were a mobility company, and their new CEO smartly walked it back. And now Ford is really focusing on like race car stuff, which I, as a car enthusiast, am much more attracted to. Or even better example, remember when like a third of all the car companies said that they were going to go fully electric by 2030? Technically innovative, really trying to blaze a trail, but they've all since rolled back their goals because that was a huge weird swing that was not based on anything. Fake predicting the future, super easy. Actually predicting the future, really hard. Go back to the past, copy someone else, do something radically new. Those are the common enthusiast ideas for a car company. Honestly, all three of those ideas have their merits, and each one of them is a pretty good swing. So how do those compare to Nissan's actual plan? Presenting the actual plan. So their CEO, Ivan Espinosa, is doing something completely unexpected, extremely brave, and essentially embarking on a tough-willed journey to restore the brand's reputation via bottom-up feedback and product-focused innovation. I'll just with you guys. He's a CEO. He's not doing any of that shit. His plan has been branded as, I think, Nissan? Regarding Nissan? Nissan? Nissan. How do we go from 901 activities, a name that when we were putting this script together, Jesse looked at me from across the table and goes, dude, 901 activities is a sick name. And I was like, yeah, dude. Fucking almost 40 years later, we're still stoked about that name. And this guy is like, oh, what should we call our new plan? How about an internal email? An email response from work. What gets people excited? I know I get really excited when someone answers my email regarding something. These guys are not excited about cars. They're excited about business. They literally love email. Who the f*** loves email? Every time I get an email, I get anxious. That's who I want running my car company. I want a person who doesn't open their email. That's who I want running the car company. A cool guy. Well, as a part of Nissan, the CEO promises to cut costs, reinforce partnerships, and redefine their product strategy. Two of these, depending on how they decide to go about it, could potentially be pretty cool things. Let's see what the plan is, though. So when Espinosa says cost cutting, he means it. Nissan has announced 20,000 job cuts globally and closure of design studios in the US and Brazil. They're also reducing the number of vehicle platforms from 13 to 7, as well as several plant closures, including an LFP battery plant and their historic Opama plant in Japan. So closing a bunch of places and firing a bunch of people sucks, but it makes sense. But it isn't usually part of the conversations that me and my friends have at car meets. Dude, what if they made a convertible, but the floor?
I think they should fire people and close plants.
So cutting a bunch of jobs and closing a bunch of plants isn't romantic at all, unless you're a freak. But maybe it's something that you have to do. Certainly not something that we fantasize about. But it's only the first step. Sure, you're saving a bunch of money. But now what are you going to do with it? Which brings us to reinvesting in partnerships. There's a few examples of partnerships being very cool recently. Renault makes cool cars. Mitsubishi has made some really cool cars. What is Nissan going to do? Well, supposedly Renault has a lot of EV know-how and is more familiar with navigating European Union regulations, and Mitsubishi has a strong presence in Southeast Asia. So Nissan is going to lean on both of those guys to save money. Again, that makes a lot of sense. Working with strategic partners, also not really fun and doesn't make me want to buy a Nissan. As far as the third branch of the Nissan regarding Nissan plan, redefining product strategy. Technically, that could be how you describe what we pitched in the beginning. Bring back performance platforms and make Nissan wantable again. That's not what they're doing. They're cutting down the number of cars they're making with the goal of having 70% fewer parts variants, cheaper supplier contracts, and a faster time to market. The focus is unsurprisingly on SUVs and trucks here in the US and giving global models like the Rogue top priority, which is, the most boring car I can imagine. The only good news is they're keeping the Z, which nobody likes, and they plan on releasing a new Skyline, which we're all pretty nervous about. Not quite the return to the past that I think we'd like to see. But the world is tough, and when you have thousands of parts, hundreds of suppliers, and almost 36 factories, I guess every 1/10 of a cent counts. Cutting the brand down into the high volume, high margin models makes sense. Sell as many cars as possible with as little complexity as possible, and avoid the slow sellers, even if they're good for the brand image. But at that point, what's the point? I mean, is it even a pet cat if it can't stand up at all and it doesn't know why it's in so much pain and it doesn't have any freaking teeth and it just diarrheas all over your couch all the time? I mean, is that even a pet anymore? I mean, if you're just making Rogues and like weird electric Renault amalgamation things to sell in Southeast Asia and you're making a partnership because they're good at paperwork, what's the point of having a freaking car company, dog? How did we get here? I feel like if one of these CEOs was the head coach of an NFL team and they went to the Super Bowl, this is like going to everybody and being like, hey guys, we could just give up the most safeties ever in the history of football and we could all bet on it and we'd all make a bunch of money. And then the team looks at him and he's like, yeah, but we would lose the Super Bowl and everyone would hate us. And the coach is like, yeah, but didn't you hear me? We would make a bunch of money. But that's weird and it kind of like ruins the point of playing football. It's like, dude, but we'd have a bunch of money. It's like, yeah, but what's the point of having a bunch of money if we're not happy with ourselves? I don't think you're understanding this concept. We would have a bunch of money. Of course we'd be happy with ourselves. It's like, I think you're a different kind of guy than me, man. I fully admit that running a car company sounds super hard. I can barely run a YouTube channel, and I have a lot of help. And there's no one plan guaranteed to save Nissan. Tell me your plan to save Nissan down in the comments. What would you guys do if you were the CEO? Me? I'd probably start smoking cigs again. This video was inspired by a conversation that we had on our members only Not Safe for Work, Super Spicy After Dark podcast. Just kidding. The Legion podcast, only available to members of the Legion of Speed. Go to our website to check that out, speed.co. We got other stuff on there too, mostly shirts and shit. See you guys next time.